I honestly would not change one thing about my career journey.
Mm.
Even the very painful ending at Carrots, I wouldn't change that because it's often the hardest things that we learn the most from. I've had the most extraordinary career, literally traveling the world to buy and develop products for equestrians because I loved horses as a 7-year-old girl.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wood.
And I'm Jennifer Connor.
From Equestrian Businesswomen, and you're listening to Equestrian B2B, the podcast that brings together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and equestrians for conversations about how they build and sustain a successful business.
On today's show, we speak with Melissa Hubbard about her career as an equestrian industry executive, developing high-performing teams, and how these experiences have shaped her.
Melissa Hubbard is an accomplished equestrian industry executive whose career has been shaped by a lifelong love of horses. Growing up in Virginia, Melissa first climbed into the saddle at summer camp when she was 7 years old. That experience sparked an enduring passion, and from that point forward, nearly every major decision she made was guided by a desire to build a life with more horses in it. Melissa has since built a highly successful career helping some of the equestrian world's most recognized and well-loved brands grow, evolve, and connect more meaningfully with their customers. She currently serves as Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer for Essex Classics, where she is helping lead the transformation and expansion of the Heritage apparel brand. Previously, Melissa served as CEO of Carrots, directing the company's product, brand, marketing, sales, and growth strategies. She also served as Director of Sales and Marketing at Equifit and consulted with Greenhawk USA to help the Canadian retailer open its flagship U.S. store. Earlier in her career, Melissa spent more than a decade as Vice President of Merchandising at SmartPack. As a member of SmartPack's early leadership team, she helped the company grow from an emerging business into one of the country's leading equestrian retailers.
Known for combining strategic vision with hands-on leadership, Melissa has built brands, launched new product categories, developed high-performing teams, and guided businesses through periods of rapid growth and transformation. She holds an MBA from the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and a bachelor's degree in business administration from St. Andrews University. Through every chapter of her career, horses have remained both Melissa's compass and her greatest source of inspiration. Today, she continues to train and compete in the hunters and equitation and treasures the time she spends with her horse, Tucker.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
I know you and I have emailed back and forth for many, many years. I don't think we've actually met in person, though,
Nope,
right?
we have not. We have not.
Maybe someday.
Yes.
But so to start out, can you tell us a little bit about your journey through the equestrian industry and kind of how you got to your current role?
Yeah, for sure. It's a long journey. And it really started when I was 7 and my mom sent me to summer camp, and that camp was a riding camp. Yeah. And from that week forward, pretty much every decision I've made in my life is about how I get to spend more time with horses. So I knew that I wasn't a talented enough rider to be a professional, so that wasn't going to be a path for me. But I did like the game of business, and so I chose to go to college at St. Andrews, which unfortunately closed last spring. Let's all say a prayer for St. Andrews.
I know, it's such a shame.
Such a shame. Just those 4 years were so transformational for me, and it's just so sad that new generations will not get to experience that.
Yeah.
But while at St. Andrews, I was able to I majored in business and minored in equestrian studies. So graduated from there armed with what I thought would help me find a path in the equestrian industry. So I graduated from college in 1993, a million gazillion years ago, and there were not the same number of opportunities in the equestrian industry as there are today. So I really spent the first 10 years post-college working 2 or 3 jobs at a time in a myriad of different places. and working that hard so that I could afford to keep riding because, mom wasn't paying the bills anymore. So
Yes.
I had to figure out how to be able to continue to ride. And that meant working a whole lot, right out of college. You do what you have to do, right? So I had very exciting jobs, like working as a receptionist in a septic pumping company.
Ah,
Yeah, I did
fun.
that. So Monday through Wednesday, I was a receptionist at a septic pumping company, and then Thursday through Sunday, I went on the road and groomed for Holly Hill Show Stables.
Okay.
So that was exciting. I worked in human services for many, many years, doing residential and vocational programming for adults with developmental disabilities and psychiatric challenges. Learned a
Okay.
whole lot from that. I did customer service at Dover Saddlery.
Ah,
Fun
right.
fact, I think I'm the only person in the world who has worked at Dover, SmartPack, and Greenhawk. I could be wrong about that. Someone may correct me, but this is my fun fact.
Yeah.
So ultimately, all of these things led me to a career in procurement at State Street in Boston, which is a giant financial services company. While I was there, I was able to get my MBA and learned about climbing the corporate ladder. I was negotiating contracts for really thrilling things like office supplies and cell phones. And after 6 years of doing that, really was very clear in my mind that corporate America was not my jam and not the thing that was gonna fill me up. So I started looking for other opportunities and found this, at the time, little company called SmartPack.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So this was 2003.
Okay.
SmartPack was, I think, maybe 2 years old at the time, but not really. Like it had been started 2 years prior to that at Becky and Paul's kitchen table, but had not been well known to equestrians for that long for sure.
Right.
I interviewed for a customer service job. Even though I had grown to senior purchasing officer at State Street, I really was just so desperate to get out of corporate America that I
Yeah.
was 100% fine with taking a role with less responsibility so I could talk about horses all day.
Interesting.
I interviewed with everyone in the office, including the office dogs. That was about 5 or 6 people at the time, I think.
Yeah.
It took a lot of hours, and at the end of all of those hours, they said something like, "We don't really know what you're going to do, but we really like you, so welcome to the team."
Ah.
And that was the beginning of a magical 12 years at SmartPack in the era when customer service was at the forefront of everything we did and hypergrowth was our mantra. I ultimately was VP of merchandising, responsible for the teams of people who managed our inventory, bought all of our third party products, designed and brought to market private label products, managed vendor relationships, determined pricing strategies. Our creative team and retail store also reported to me
Wow.
during that time.
That's a lot.
And it's a lot, it's a lot. But I had an incredibly talented team of people who made it all manageable. So it was okay. After 12 years at SmartPack, my son was 7 at that time and really needed more from his mama. Despite that incredibly talented team that I just spoke about, SmartPack consumed me. And I don't regret 1 second of that, but it was time for me to be more available for Logan. So I made the really hard decision to leave my dream job. Terribly, terribly frightening and such a hard decision, but was the right decision for me at that time.
Yeah.
I had grown an incredibly talented team of very capable and competent people who were more than well equipped to carry on without me. And sometimes, as a leader, that is one of the greatest gifts, right? Having a team of people that can do your job.
Yeah.
You want them to grow up and be able to do your job, and they were there, and they were ready. And I had been looking at all of the things at SmartPack in that role for 12 years at that time, and I said to Paul, who was one of the co-founders and owners, that sometimes it's nice to have fresh eyes on the business, and I do think that SmartPack was at a place where it was a good time for them to have fresh eyes on the business. So that was my life at SmartPack. And, I say I got my MBA at UMass Boston, but I earned it at SmartPack. And that is absolutely true. Starting at the time I did, when the company was in its infancy, I got to see and be involved with pretty much every aspect of that business. I developed a really broad skill set that has served me quite well post SmartPack. Right after SmartPack, I split my time between Equifit and Wicked Good Cupcakes. Also, fun fact, Wicked Good Cupcakes, Shark Tank business, is the only company that I have worked for the past 23 years that was not specific to the equine industry, though the owner and founder of that company was a person I rode with, so horses brought me there as well.
Yeah, she was our keynote speaker at the first summit.
Yes,
That's
Tracy.
so cool.
Tracy is one of my very dear friends.
I think that's when I first spoke with you, because Alexandra at Equifit gave me your contact to get in touch with her, and now it's all
intertwined, right? It's all intertwined.
It really is. We tell people all the time it's about who you know, and
it is so about who you know. And Alexandra, funny story about, not funny, but to this point, Alexandra rode at Holly Hill as a child when I was there working. And so I literally had known her since she was a teeny tiny little thing on ponies. And
that's so cool.
She started Equifit, and I got to work with her. She was one of my customers when I was at SmartPack. And then after SmartPack, I got to work for her. And it's who you know, and such a cool story in our industry that we all kind of find our way back to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while I was at Equifit and Wicked Good Cupcakes, I was recruited to be the CEO at Carrots, which I did for 5 years from 2019 to 2023.
I bet those were challenging years.
Yeah. And yes, and it ended not in a great way for me, quite honestly. The decision to leave Carrots was not my own. I was laid off, and let's face it, no matter how that's positioned or communicated, it feels like being fired. And for anybody, that's a hard pill to swallow. But for someone like me, who had spent my entire career building, growing, and being successful, it was devastating, like truly devastating. And I thought I would spend the rest of my career at Carrots. I loved that role, loved that brand, loved what we were doing there. But in November of 2023, I found myself unemployed and really doubting what would come next, right? Like, a lot of people talk about imposter syndrome, but when you've been through something like that, like my first time at being in a CEO level role, to have it end that way was really hard. And yes, that was during COVID. That was during the huge spike in our industry post-COVID, followed by the worst supply chain crisis that anybody had ever experienced, followed by a literal drop off the cliff in business. I was not equipped, right? I made the best decisions that I could at the time when I needed to make them. And that is all I can say. I did my best. And everything happens for a reason. And so post Carrots, I got to do some really fun things. And one of those really fun things is that I got to work with Greenhawk as a consultant, helping them open their flagship store in Natick. So, so Natick was SmartPack's store. And I had been on the team of people 19 years prior to that who helped open that store originally for SmartPack. So getting to do it again with Greenhawk, can we talk about these full circle moments that are happening? Listen, people, don't burn bridges, because this, especially in this industry,
I say that all the time.
Things just keep coming full circle. So Gosh, talk about a surreal moment. So I helped Greenhawk for about 6 or 7 months, and one of the most reflective moments I had during that time was right after we got the keys to the store, and it was empty. SmartPack had taken everything out at that point. Their lease was up. They had left a few fixtures, some of which were ones that we designed when we originally opened that store. So that was, something. And then the SmartPack blue paint was still on the wall. There were SmartPack stickers on the pallet racking in the basement. And I was alone in the building. The contractors had left for the day, and I was walking around turning the lights off. And it was just like walking around and seeing what was left of SmartPack was such an emotional moment for me. SmartPack was truly a transformational time in my career and continues to have a huge impact on everything that I have done. And gosh, that was a lot. I didn't think it would hit me like that, but it really, really did. And, watching what has happened to SmartPack over the years has been interesting for sure, to say the very least, but they're in great hands now with Chewy. So post Greenhawk, I did a little more consulting for a few different brands, including WF Young and ERS, but really wanted to find my full-time home. I did interview with Chewy. Had a little bit of a disappointing experience in that process, which in hindsight turned out to be a blessing, because in the summer of 2024, I was contacted by Kathy Sacher, who was the founder and owner of Essex Classics. Kathy and I had worked together at SmartPack and had stayed in touch for all of the years post SmartPack. She was selling the business and wanted to help the new owners find an executive in the industry who could help them lead Essex into the next part of its journey. And that was the beginning of the next chapter and how I got to today.
That's cool.
Long and winding road, ladies. Long and winding road.
It is.
It's never a straight line, though.
No, it's never a straight line, and it's never what you expect it to be or could plan it to be.
Right.
It just kind of flows and happens the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking back on your career, what do you think was the pivotal moment that kind of shaped your leadership style?
So I am a firm believer that you can't teach somebody how to be a leader. I feel like they either have that in their DNA or they don't. You can teach someone how to manage people, how to conduct performance reviews, how to have difficult conversations. I've yet to see somebody teach another person how to lead. I think I'm lucky enough to have that ability, and I suppose I should be thanking my parents for that. But the pivotal moments in my career really came from having bad managers and leaders, and seeing that leadership style and knowing that it wasn't how I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. Leaders who called out teammates publicly to address performance concerns rather than having a private conversation and coaching through those concerns. Leaders who had a different opinion than the one that was being voiced and made by the person who was brave enough to speak up and made them feel like they were not worthy because that opinion was not the same as the person leading that conversation. Those were the kinds of experiences that really helped shape me. It's hard to find good leaders. It's hard, and I luckily have been in the room with a lot of good ones and also a lot of bad ones and have been able to learn from both.
Yeah. And so I think for me, I feel like I have learned more from what not to do from people than necessarily what to do.
100%.
Right?
100%. And that's true in all aspects of your life, right?
Yeah.
Not just in leadership and work. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked for some businesses where they were not run well, and I've learned, that's not what you need to do. And also for me, the leadership thing, I was laughing because I was watching something the other day which AKA means I was watching a TikTok, and they were talking about being an Aquarius, and they were saying something about Aquariuses like you end up being a leader whether you want to or not. And I often find that about myself. Like growing up as a kid, I was always picked to be the captain of the team or a co-captain of the team or, in some kind of leadership role. And it's been in my family, it's been a little bit of a talk about, am I just bossy?
I know. Well, and as women, that's the first thing we go to, right? Are we just bossy? Oh boy.
Even when I worked at Blue Chip Farms, like I went from grooming in the barn to like being an assistant manager pretty quickly. And I was like, oh, I think that's because I was like bossing everybody around like the first event we had. And I was like, no, we got to do this, clean that horse's feet, do this, pull the mate, and everybody's like, you've been here 5 minutes. And I was like, yeah, but I know what to do.
And you're not afraid to say it.
Yeah, not afraid to say it. And I think there is some just inherent ability that some people have to show confidence even when you don't feel confident yourself, right? Like a lot of times you don't feel confident in yourself, but you know that stuff's got to get done and you know how to get it done or who to ask to help you get it done, and so you take charge. And I think people gravitate towards that kind of personality.
Yeah,
and that's
definitely
how those kinds of people like you end up finding yourself in a leadership position over and over again.
Yeah, and honestly, I even feel it when I'm trying not to be a leader and I'm trying to fly underneath the radar. Like even at this point, I have a new manager and he is often like asking my opinion or for my input and I feel like I'm being pushed to like be in this more like, I mean, I'm a senior team member, so obviously I think I have some input now, but it's just funny because I'm like, yeah, I'm just flying behind under the radar, and then it's like, no, you're not. Like, Jen, what's your opinion on this? Hey, how do you sell that? How do you do this? And I'm like, oh dang, here we go again. But I did want to know, like, how do you develop the talent in like such a small specialized industry?
Yeah. So I don't think mentoring and developing talent in our industry is significantly different than doing it in any other industry, honestly. For me, talent development has really been about leading by example. Throughout my career, I did things like picked orders in the warehouse at SmartPack, helped to set up trade show booths when I was CEO at Carrots. I cleaned bathrooms at Greenhawk during grand opening weekend because it needed to be done.
Yeah.
No matter what your title is, you don't get above being in the trenches with your employees to see what they are experiencing, see their pain points. You build and respect camaraderie with your team when you're willing to do those things. And one of the primary roles as a leader is to make sure that you remove any roadblocks that are preventing your teams from performing, and then you get out of the way and let them do their jobs. And let me tell you, you get a much healthier respect for those pain points when you experience them yourself.
For sure.
Yeah, and so modeling the behavior you want your employees to exhibit, I think, is so incredibly valuable than just trying to teach out of context. So like, for example, when working with new buyers at SmartPack, I would include them in meetings, higher level meetings that I was having with vendors, higher level negotiations that I was having with vendors. I would include them on emails so that they could hear the words I was using. They could see my body language. They could see how people were reacting, and they could then take that and adapt it and use it for themselves. Once I left SmartPack and was working with sales reps on the wholesale side of the business, it was very similar, right? Like those skills that I learned at SmartPack working with a buyer really served me well working in sales now on the wholesale side of the business. And with reps, same thing. Let them be involved in the conversations with customers. Let them hear the words you are saying. I couldn't teach them how to do those things out of context, but I could teach them by showing them what it should look like. I could teach them by letting them see me make mistakes and learning from those mistakes. And I think that truly is the key to helping people learn in a way that is meaningful and sticks with them.
Yeah. And do you think all of that kind of also plays into building a team, and how do you, I guess, find the qualities in people in order to make the team work well together?
Yeah. Building a team is probably one of the hardest and the most fulfilling things that you can do as a leader manager. The opportunities for things to go terribly wrong are there every single day. But the opportunities for things to be spectacular are also there. And the reality is both of those things are going to happen, right? So I think modeling the behavior, of course, is very important. The other thing that I learned over the years is that no matter how clear you think you are communicating, you are not. Because people are processing differently. Some people like you to speak the words. Some people want to read the written words. There's so much noise. There's so much being thrown at us on a daily basis that you really have to think very carefully about how and what you're communicating. And you have to over communicate to the point where you think you are boring people to death with what you're telling them. Because if you tell them 3 times, they might hear it once.
Do you think it's repetition or simplification or both?
Both. I think keeping things as simple as possible is really important, right? Life is too complex, and we need to dumb things down is probably not the right way to say it, but we need to communicate things in a way that people can absorb what we're saying, and they know why I'm telling them, and they know what they need to do. So yes, simplification and repetition, because I mean, again, how many times does your trainer need to tell you to put your heels down before you finally do?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Do you find that that's something you still do once people are like high functioning within the company? Or at some point do you be like, I've told you enough times, I think you need to get with it and remember how to do this?
100%. Yes. Yeah. And my style, I so many times I have been accused of being too kind or too nice. And I probably let people get away with, telling them the same thing more times than I should before I call them out on it. But when I call them out on it, it's something like, hey, I've given you that information now 3 different times in email. Perhaps you could go find it.
Yeah.
So
per my last email.
Yes. And they may say, I don't have time to read my emails. And you know what? That's a teaching moment for me. That means with this person, I need to talk to them. I need to pick up the phone and I need to call them. And sometimes that's not realistic, right? Like sometimes you can't adapt your communication style or your leadership style to every single person on your team. And in that case, I would probably have a conversation with that person and say, it is not realistic for me to be able to call you every single time I have information to share. So I really need you to know that when I send you an email, it's important and you need to pay attention to it.
Have you ever done DISC training?
No.
Okay, so I just went through this with my company, and it's super interesting because it's not personality testing as much as it's like behavior. And that was like a big part. Like we answered all these questions, and then we had to break out into groups, whether we were a D, an I, an S, or a C. And I'm an I, like the center of an I, which is like outgoing and vibes. And I mean, very much me. But it was interesting to see who in our group ended up under what section, and to learn to communicate with those people, because like you're saying, people definitely want to either want it in writing, or they want it slow and thought out, or they want it quick and just to the point, or they want to be organized in a certain way. And so we did it as an exercise to be able to communicate within our team a little bit better. And I just thought it was so interesting. But I do think too, while I was taking it, I mean, I was sitting at the pool on a weekend with a drink in hand, and I was feeling pretty groovy. So I think that can also sway it, and also some of it, it's like, well, what's the context? Is this related to work, or is this related to real life, or, how to answer the questions? But it definitely spoke to, how certain people, why we might have conflict because of, how we express ourselves, or how, we want to consume information. And so it was very funny. There were only 4 of us in the group that I was in, and 2 of them were like a mix of a DI, like an ID, and I was like solid I, and there was another girl solid I, and we are so similar. Like, we started out the exercise and we were doing it completely wrong because we were talking and weren't listening to the instructions. And I'm like typically a rule follower, but like also I don't always listen to the direction.
So you're one of those people who needs to hear it multiple times.
Like, probably written down is best. That's what we were talking about. Like, have it written down, and like it just to the point. But like, because I'm a visual person and I'll snapshot it, right? But yeah, so it's super interesting, like how how that can make the team communicate and everything.
Yeah, and one other thing I like to, when people ask me about teams and growing teams, one other thing that has really sort of stood out to me in my career is making sure you communicate back to the team after decisions have been made. So, being clear on goals and objectives, absolutely. Goals and objectives are going to change. If goals and objectives change, you need to communicate back to the team why, because it is likely that they were involved in conversations that led you to those original goals and objectives, but maybe depending on their level, they weren't involved in conversations that led to a need to change those goals and objectives. So making sure they understand why helps them not feel like they just ran into a brick wall and did an about face, right? You got to get everybody kind of on the same page and understanding why you're rowing all in the same direction and where you're going. That's super important. And then the other thing really that is important, I think, is allowing others to have input and respecting their opinions, obviously incredibly important in building teams. But at the end of the day, one person has to make a decision. And in the case where that decision may not be the recommendation or the opinions of the people who were involved in the conversation, it's really important to make sure that those people understand why, so that they don't think you've just ignored them.
Yeah.
Because that makes them not want to speak up again, because they are like, I told you what I wanted and you just ignored me, so why should I give you my opinion?
Yeah.
Really important to circle back. And then the other thing, probably the most important thing, quite honestly, is giving people a safe space to fail and make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. If people are afraid of making mistakes, they're not going to put themselves out there. They're not going to do the riskiest things, and sometimes the riskiest things are the best things. So you've got to give them a safe space to be able to do that.
What kind of challenges do you see in growing equestrian businesses today?
Wow, the list is super long. The list is super long. So I'm just going to talk about a couple. The economic environment right now is not doing us any favors, right? There is less discretionary income. So if you are in a position where you have to decide if your horse gets new shoes this month, or you buy the new color of breeches that you've wanted, guess what wins? So that is a real thing for most of us right now. Talking specifically about apparel, one of the biggest challenges right now is that there are 9 gazillion new apparel brands that have popped up in the past 5 or 6 years. Very long gone are the days when Essex Classics and Tailored Sportsman were the only choices in show shirts and show breeches. There are so many brands right now fighting for the same customer. It's wild. It's just absolutely wild. I would say, from my desk every day right now, those are the 2 things that are really big challenges that we're trying to figure out how to navigate.
Do you think that is common in other parts of the industry as well? Because I feel like there's way more types of bridles and saddles
100%.
and helmets that we can get now compared to when we were growing up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't know if this was a COVID phenomenon or just, it's been happening over the years, but it does seem post-COVID that it's gotten incredibly crowded. And, that's for brands part of the reason why it's really important to talk about your story and not just sell products. So that's a challenge where 100% all of us are facing, 100%. And tax shops too. Everybody, how do you choose the brands to put in your tax shop when there are so many choices? And how do
Right.
we as brands make sure the tax shops know why they should pick us?
Right.
Yeah. Where do you see the biggest growth opportunities right now?
Well, let's talk about this little situation with Dover,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
What a huge gap that is.
Yeah.
And our industry, retail, probably not going to grow significantly, right? But now there's a very large customer base who is looking for a new place to shop. Tax shops and online retailers are uniquely positioned right now and have a huge opportunity to take advantage of that and step up and fill that gap. I think, what I would say is customers aren't necessarily going to just wander into your store or suddenly find your website just because Dover is now gone. Businesses need to go find those customers. It's going to take work, but they are there to be had. And now is really a time, if you are serious about growing your business, now is really a time where you have a very good opportunity to do that.
That's interesting. Do you think it has to be somebody who wants to be everything to everyone like Dover was in terms of the scale and the breadth of their product offering?
No,
Yeah. Okay.
I don't. I mean, certainly, we've all gotten accustomed to one-stop shopping. The convenience of Amazon is just like, we're all trained for that now. I don't have time to drive half an hour, 45 minutes to the closest tax shop most of the time. So online shopping is very important to me personally, and I think that is true for a lot of people. But I do want to shop at a place, even when I'm shopping online, where I know that I'm going to get the customer service that I deserve as a customer, and where I know that I am making a contribution to a community. Like, I would much prefer to shop with a local tax shop than Amazon. 100%. And I don't necessarily need them to have every single brand. I need them to have the things that I need, and maybe they're going to introduce me to something a brand that I didn't know existed. So I don't think you need to be everything to everybody. It's really hard to be that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be that. And, SmartPack is sending out, I don't know if you've seen any of their marketing recently, but they are using those words again, one-stop shop. So,
wow.
now being under, they're owned by Chewy now, and they are clearly ramping up to take advantage of this. And, that's interesting.
It is. Yeah.
That's interesting. And that is not a local tax shop.
Right.
Yeah.
That is not a local tax shop. So it is very interesting to see how that is going to play out. But I do, obviously having come from SmartPack as a huge part of my background and knowing the team of people that still sit in that building, they're horse people just like us for the most part. So it definitely feels a little bit more industry friendly than like going to Amazon to buy your farrier's formula.
Yeah, definitely.
But, there is definitely a place for that small community tax shop. We need those kinds of retailers and we need those people in our community. So supporting them is important.
I'm interested to see how AI is going to affect that and the online shopping experiences with all the new technology that's come out for, closets, having closets and building closets and things like that. Like I'm really kind of excited to see if that's going to help change the landscape at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to help for the people who choose to let it.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And there's so much controversy around, is AI good? Is AI bad? I do AI trainings all the time. I'm currently doing an AI training and trying to learn how to be better at using AI to help me with monthly metrics and reporting and analytics, because it takes a really long time to put all of those reports together.
Yeah.
And by the time I've put all those reports together, my brain hurts.
Yep.
And I don't have the capacity and the bandwidth to spend the time actually looking at the numbers and deciding what to do about them.
Right.
And if I can use AI to help me be smarter about that, I'm going to.
Yeah. Oh,
it's all about how you implement it,
Yeah.
right?
100%. 100%. So yeah, I think, it's incredibly overwhelming if you guys are doing, you both have said you're doing stuff with AI. It's so incredibly powerful, and it's
Right.
so incredibly overwhelming, and it's really hard to know where to start, and what to learn and what is most important. But my goodness, has it changed the way I work every day?
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I've actually used it as a really good tool for sales training, because it is great for going back and forth. We had some sales training last year with spin selling and helping me understand it, break it down, practice it. It can be a really good tool for a lot of different things. Prepping for interviews. I mean, when we had episode 2, one of my friends came on and she was a recruiter and talked about, getting your practicing for interviews and getting your resume ready and everything. And for me, I feel like AI would be a great tool to go back and forth with, because it's like you can practice things with it. I find it fascinating and interesting and very helpful.
Yeah, it is. It is incredibly helpful.
When you're, serving in that executive level in a company, how do you still keep the perspective of your client, which is also you as a rider? Do you use your own experiences, or do you talk to people in your barn, or how do you keep that? Yeah.
All of the above. So I am super lucky in that I am the customer of all of the brands that I've worked for. So kind of staying in her mindset is easy because it's my mindset. The thing that is hardest, quite honestly, for me is not letting my experience and my biases based on that experience cloud thinking beyond that. So my specific experience in the barn and with horses and riding and all of the things is very different than anybody else, right? It's all an individual experience. And so I have to check myself a little bit, because I'm like, well, I would never use that whatever in the barn. And then I have to be like, but you're not every person. There are people who probably would use that in the barn. And one of the hardest things as a buyer product development person is remembering that you're not developing for yourself. You're developing for your customers. And your customers may want something completely different than what you yourself would put on your body or use on your horse. So it's a very fine line and a balance. So how do you do that? You talk to the customers. I spend a lot of time talking to people. I spend a lot of time reading the Plaid Horse Adult Amateur Lounge on Facebook. Back in the day, do you remember the Chronicle of the Horse forums?
Yes.
That was like a gold mine of information for product development.
That's so interesting.
Oh my goodness. I had we printed things back in the day, right? I had binders of conversations from Chronicle of the Horse printed out, and would make notes and we need to make breeches that do this because people are complaining about this. And so you gotta talk to the people. You gotta talk to the people. Cool. And sometimes they don't know what their pain points are, right? And the whole goal of product development and designing products is solve a problem for somebody, make their lives easier. And they may not even know what their problem is, but by asking the right questions, you can ferret that out. And sometimes it's asking the question of, what is your most favorite thing about your most favorite pair of breeches?
Yeah.
What is your least favorite thing about that same pair of breeches? And let them answer those questions, and just kind of amaze amazing what can happen.
That's cool.
What lessons do you think you've learned from like your Smart Pack days that still influence like your approach to business today?
Oh boy. So, my early days at SmartPack were legitimately like the wild, wild west. I was in in the first 10 employees of the company. So like very, very early in the days. We were young, ambitious. We had a lot to prove. We worked really, really hard. We took great care of each other and we had a lot of fun. There were a lot of tears and a lot of frustrations, but my goodness, were we all so proud of what we were doing and building, and it felt so incredibly special. I think the biggest lesson from that time that has followed me throughout my career is exactly what we were just talking about, focusing on the customer. Taking the best care of your customers, solving their problems, making their lives easier, enhancing the time they spend with their horses. That is what we were laser focused on at SmartPack, and nobody else was at the time. That was really the secret sauce. And that really is the thing that propelled SmartPack in a way that I think most of us could never have imagined. You obviously need to go know what's going on in the competitive landscape, right? But we would have vendors come in and say things like, Dover doesn't want us to do business with you. All the time. All the time. Vendors would say that to us. And I spent many years and a lot of time trying to convince vendors that they actually did need to do business with SmartPack. And I think one of the reasons that SmartPack was able to become more popular than Dover at that time is because we were focused on our customer. Dover was focused on us. Dover was focused on what SmartPack was doing. Dover was not focused on what their customer needed. And so we were able to just like slide right in there. Slide right in there and take good care of her. So, we talked about the crowded marketplace right now. You really do have to take care of your customers and give them no other option but to think of you first.
We've definitely had that theme before of not letting your competition make your decisions for you, and not, like you said, like putting the blinders on and focusing on what you do well and what you want to accomplish rather than all the noise of other people and other companies. So sure. It's nice to have that reinforced again.
Yeah.
And with SmartPack, it's an interesting example too, because I think it's kind of one of the prime examples of a business scaling up enormously in our industry. And I was wondering kind of what are some mistakes that brands may make when they're trying to scale? And, for smaller companies, like what's something that you can do to make a bigger impact when you're growing?
Yeah. So I'm going to start by answering the second part of that question first. So what are the things that you can do to make the biggest impact? Right now, honestly, you need to tell your story. You need to tell your why. There is a book called Start With Why. I would recommend that everybody read that book.
I have.
Jen's read it.
That is
Jen's read everything.
Fabulous book. And it really helps you to understand that you're not selling products, you're selling a story. And that's really important right now in this super crowded marketplace, right? A lot of us are selling the same or similar products. Why should a customer buy from me instead of someone else?
Yeah.
You have to be authentic. You have to be relatable. You have to be consistent in your story, and you have to show up for your customers in a way that they can relate to. And that will help them to think of you first. All of those words are much easier said than done.
Right.
But you really do have to be intentional about every email, every social media post, everything that you're telling your customer should be important, and not just pushing out content for the sake of pushing out content. I think we all get stuck in the grind of, if I don't post every day, they're going to forget about me. Well, you know what? If I'm posting junk every day, they're going to keep on scrolling.
Right.
So maybe I post once a week, but it's really awesome and it's
Yeah.
really important and it makes them stop. And that's really the goal. Make
Right.
them stop and pay attention to you. So that's kind of my advice. Tell your story. Mistakes, my goodness, there are so many, and I have made all of them more than once. So I think just a few like big ones. I think when you're scaling, we talked about this a little bit, being a one-stop shop, right? I think one of the biggest mistakes that brands can make is getting too far away from the core of who they are, the core of what made them successful in the first place. Stretching and testing is part of business, right? You got to grow, you got to try new things, but you got to be willing to fail fast. That was
Yes.
also a thing that we talked about at SmartPack all the time. Be willing to fail fast. Call it quits when it isn't working. There's no shame in that, right? You got to try. You got to take risks.
Don't get stuck in the sunk cost fallacy.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is a big one, I think, particularly for our industry, where a lot of the brands are small, right? We have small teams of people. You're often faced with wearing many, many hats. There is no shame in recognizing and admitting that you cannot be an expert in everything. You cannot be. You can surround yourself with people who will fill the gaps in your skill sets. I fully recognize that you may not be able to afford those people, but you would be very surprised about how many people are willing to help you. In this industry in particular, I think we're genuinely caring people and we want to help each other. And you can find a mentor. You can find somebody who has done what you're trying to do and ask them questions and learn from them. You don't have to do it all yourself. This one is also very important. Have somebody who is really good at cash flow management to help you make sure you're not getting out in front of your skis in terms of what you can afford to do and when.
Ah, that's such a good one. And not a lot of people mention that when we've talked to others. And gosh, that's so important.
It is.
Can
And you don't have, honestly, as a small business owner, that's, when do you get to that, right? Like you need somebody whose job it is, and that can be outsourced, right? That is really important.
Yeah.
That is really, really, really important. And then the final thing I will say is inventory. You really have to be diligent about managing inventory to the best of your ability. If it isn't selling, don't let it collect dust because that's just money sitting on your shelf and you need that money to fuel growth. When I was at SmartPack, a lot of lessons learned at SmartPack, right? When I was at SmartPack, it was one of my very first vendor meetings with the sales rep from Farnham. And I was new in the buyer role at SmartPack coming from corporate America. I had never managed inventory of things before. I was learning how to do that. And he said to me, how does it feel to wake up every morning and look in the mirror and know that you're going to be wrong? And I was like, oh no. What have I gotten myself into? But he was right. Listen, there is no crystal ball in the world that is going to help you forecast inventory correctly. It is never what you want it to be. It can get close. Sometimes you make really good decisions. You're like, yeah, I did that just right. But most of the time you're like, well, that didn't happen the way I thought it was going to. So it is an art, not a science. There are many more tools now that can help you be closer to scientific with managing inventory. But my goodness, is that a thing?
Right.
It is a thing.
Let's just say, too, it's not just for small businesses or SmartPack. It is for large corporations. They struggle on forecasting, on new products, on old products, on all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we were all clairvoyant and could predict the future, it would be easy, right?
Yeah.
But we are not. And I like to say my crystal ball broke a long time ago, and it is no longer accurate or reliable. So
I think a lot of people's crystal ball broke during COVID.
100.
and,
my goodness.
and the supply chain just got all jacked up because,
And those were the days, right? I was at Carrots then, and we had inventory floating in containers off the coast of California for like weeks on end, and we had orders that we couldn't fill for the inventory that was in the containers. And I at one point jokingly said to the board, can you get me a helicopter so that I can go out, drop down to the boat and get the inventory off of the boat and bring it back? I was joking, of course, but my gosh, those were some times. Those were some times.
So one of our logistics guys was telling me a story, because my husband is a hay broker and he deals with a lot of logistics all the time. And so I was sharing stories with him, and he shared a story about like during COVID where we had a back order, and the product finally came in, and he was driving home from vacation, and he was in like a big stop. There's a huge accident on the highway, and as he's driving by, he looks over, and it's the tractor trailer that had all of our product in it, and it was like floating down the river. And he was like, you don't know how bad I wanted to pull over and just load as much as I could in the back of my car, because that was going to produce an even more back order because we didn't get any of that product. And he was like, no.
It's like watching money go.
Yeah, just floating. Yeah. So definitely logistics is
I know. How did any of us survive that? Like, really, really, how did any of us survive all of that chaos?
Yeah.
Oof.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. It's only now, I guess, that we can kind of look back and laugh about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all you can do is look back and laugh at this point. I said last week, like, this roller coaster ride since COVID has been a lot of fun, but I'm ready for it to be over. And I don't like what's normal anymore. Whoever thought Dover would be gone?
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
what?
Yeah.
What on earth?
And in that way, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's those little things that make managing a business tricky, if not nearly impossible, right? Like, what do you do with that? Dover was the largest customer for most brands in our industry, and like that, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
So what advice would you give someone looking to build a career in the equine industry?
So I would say be open. Be open to taking opportunities that maybe aren't the ones you thought you would want. So, for example, you're a marketing major, you've come out of college, you want to find a marketing career. Maybe State Line's advertising for a customer service role. Interview for that job. And if you get it, you should probably take it, because you don't know if that perfect marketing job is going to come along. And you're going to learn things doing that job in customer service that are going to help you if you do find a marketing role down the line. You're going to be talking to customers, market research.
Yeah.
You might find out that you really love talking to customers and helping them solve their problems. So maybe you thought you wanted a marketing career, but maybe you really want to talk to customers all day.
Mm-hmm.
Any opportunity that you get and can take will serve you in the future. I think, all of us come out of college with ideas, or come out of high school, whatever our path is, with ideas of what we want our career to look like. But I promise you, it is not going to look like what you thought it was.
Definitely not.
100% not. So don't pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah.
Take the opportunities, enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, even if it's a crazy roller coaster, and see where it takes you.
Yeah, I like that. I think being open is so important, and doing jobs that might not be exactly what you think, but it's going to definitely build your skill set in some way, which I think is really important. And it's going to open up your network, right? Like, I mean, look at for you opening up your network to go, to the next thing and be a consultant. And then it opened up, like, those were connections that you made early on. So I definitely appreciate that a lot. And if you could go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what do you think it would be?
So I think I would tell her to stay the course and have confidence in herself. I honestly would not change one thing about my career journey. Even the very painful ending at Carrots, I wouldn't change that, because it's often the hardest things that we learn the most from. I've had the most extraordinary career, literally traveling the world to buy and develop products for equestrians because I loved horses as a 7-year-old girl.
Right.
Right? I've worked with the most extraordinarily talented and passionate people, and I wouldn't want any advice that I could have given to my younger self to change any of that. The path was what it was supposed to be, and I am still learning every single day where that path takes me next.
Yeah. So at the end of each episode, we ask the same 4 questions to our guests, and Connor starts with the first.
What is your unfair advantage over others?
I think I'm like a Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades, master of none.
And what's something worth fighting for and something worth giving up?
Worth fighting for is your reputation. Worth giving up is the opinions of people who are trying to tear you down.
Mm.
I like that. What's the last thing that made you laugh really hard?
Oh my goodness, nobody is going to understand this. But we were up in Maine 2 weekends ago, sitting around a campfire drinking wine. And I was trying to explain to my nephews what chiggers are.
Oh.
And it went off the lails in a way that I could not even possibly have imagined. And I laughed that hard. I can't even tell you the last time. Spend some time with young people. They are something else.
Yeah, my nephews usually do it for me.
Yeah, my kids make me laugh a lot.
Yes.
What is the last thing that took your breath away?
Can I be totally cheesy?
Yeah.
My fiance.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. He's an extraordinary human, and I'm so lucky to have him in my life.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good note to end on. And we wanted to say thanks so much for joining us. It was really cool to talk with you and hear more about it. And I think people will get a lot out of this episode.
I hope so. I hope so. And if anybody's looking for a mentor, anybody out there who's trying to do the thing, I am always so happy to chat with people and tell you all the mistakes I've made and all the things I've learned, and whatever I can do to be helpful to people trying to get their groove on, I am all about it.
I have so many notes.
Yeah, I could have talked for a lot longer with Melissa. And I love the breadth of her experience and how willing she is to talk about it. And, to admit that so many mistakes were what led to greater success for her. I also love that she's the one who put us in touch with our keynote speaker for our first summit in 2019. Yeah, such a good connection there.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start off with why. The why is so important. And I got to tell you, it's so crazy. And it ties into her talking about telling a story. But I am watching the WWE documentary. And one of the episodes was about the why. And it was so great because they talk about like why they do the things they do, why the storylines are the way they are, and I was like, yeah, the why really drives a lot of people. And I turned to my husband and I said, see, I told you so. Because I read that book years ago. Right. And, so I think that like even in big businesses like WWE, that's important that they're looking for,
For sure.
So that was my little story about WWE to let you all know that I'm a fan.
Do you actually watch it?
No, I said to my husband last night, why don't we watch more of this? But I think it's just because I used to. Okay, I'm a big fan of Jeff Hardy and the Hardy Boys. That was back in the day before I even went to college. They were my jam. And I don't know if you remember this, but one of the baseball guys, I think. I watched WWE with them when we were in college.
Okay.
And one of them got me a giant poster of Steve Austin that I had over my bed. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I have no recollection of this.
Yeah. So
Wow.
anyway, yeah. So I've always been a fan. I have not watched it recently. I'm probably going to go back to watching it because I'm finding it fascinating. Although sometimes the storylines are just dumb. But then they explained it on the behind the scenes, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I get why they did that. So that was interesting. And then let's see what else. The focus on the customer I think is so important.
Yes.
Right. Like, and the not competition thing, which we talk about all the time. And
yeah,
just,
she really reinforced a lot of the themes that have come up.
Yeah, the fail fast, right? And cut your losses, which I need to learn. I think I'm still trying to be taught that lesson over and over and over again. Clearly, I have not learned it yet, but I'm going to this time. I'm done.
All right. Okay, good. Let's do it.
Let's see. I think... Okay, interesting about the social media posts because it's so conflicting, right?
It is.
So many people say, oh, you should post every day. And I'm trying to make Ross an influencer. Have you seen my videos lately of him with the hay?
I have.
Yes. So I'm trying to make him an influencer. So I'm not sure if I should do it like I've been doing it, which is like randomly when I have time to go and look at hay with him and film him. And I also have to put music over me laughing at him, like trying to climb up ladders. So that's kind of how it started. But now I'm like, oh, should I just do it once in a while? Also, now I have all these TikTok farmers following me on my TikTok.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's a new market.
Yeah. I didn't know. So I followed them back, obviously. So now I've got a lot of tractor videos coming up on my TikTok. Like I could probably change the spark plug in one. If there's a spark plug in it, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have them in engines and tractors.
Yeah. Okay, my other thing was the forecasting was just making me laugh because of products that I've been dealing with where we're shortages and, coming back. And it's like, even at high level, people don't get it right. So, but I feel like it's probably a little bit more devastating for smaller brands. So,
yes,
that's
a bigger impact.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
But I loved Melissa's outlook. I think she can be a great resource for people who might want to talk with her about, running a business and being a leader.
Yeah, for sure. She's definitely gives off that leader vibe.
Yes.
Oh, and now one more thing too. This is not to do with this, but the disc training thing was one of the most hilarious things I've ever done in my life. And I know you have to pay to do it. Like the company had to pay for all of us to do it, but it was very eye-opening. And, when I should have brought the paper so I could read it off for everybody because I read it to my husband and he was like, that's you. Like literally that's you. So it was pretty accurate, but it was so fun. Yeah, it's fun to now I know how to communicate better because I didn't realize the vet that I work with, he was the opposite of me. And apparently making sure that he has information before we go places is important to him, which I never really realized because I'm like, we're just going to go and do it. And then
right.
Maybe a week later, I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, we went to these places and we did this and that. And I guess he likes the itinerary ahead of time. And he never told me that. He didn't communicate it to me because, I'm sure apparently I'm intense. Oh, I won an award at work. At our
intensity?
national sales meeting. Yes. High intensity award. And they gave me pre-workout.
Gave you what?
Pre-workout.
What's that?
Like powder to put in the drink, pre-workout to and my
more intense.
And my trainer was like, "Don't use it, please," because I'm intense.
Yes, at times.
Yeah, so I both inspire and terrify my boss.
I mean, that's how you should be, right?
Well, my husband said that he could join his weekly therapy sessions if he wanted to. They're going to form a support group. They're going to invite my personal trainer as well. So.
Your victims.
Yeah, I guess. For sure. So anyway, yeah, but that was my award.
Cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Thanks so much.
Well, I think we are ready to wrap up and go on to the rest of the stuff we're working on. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. You can find the links to today's guests and the show notes at www.eqbusinesswomen.com.
You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Find Equestrian B2B wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch them on YouTube now. And be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review.
And also, I had coffee today before this, so
Yep,
it explains
we can
a lot.
tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.